If we take our pain all the way back to the source and resolve it with the right methodology, we can find a new center of calmness. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Center of Calmness. And we are even more blessed tonight to have Chris Lee back for section 2 of a much longer exploration into past life modalities. Welcome again, Chris.
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me back again. And certainly continue with our part 2.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So in part 1, we explored hypnotherapy in general, kind of led the audience through the non-threatening nature of hypnotherapy and a lot of stuff that we don't necessarily want to regurgitate right now, and then began investigating some aspects of the past life methodology modality. And I'll just start off with just a general question to kick us off tonight, and that is that you mentioned that you take folks that work with you back to the past source of their pain, right? And you ask them without being specific, just reach back and reach back to the source, and then you mentioned some elements of the past life modality, like soul groups and other things. How important is it for the client to understand all of that to participate in the process? As far as the technicalities of what the past life introspection means.
Well, it's very important. Like when I work with a new client, they have to have either been to my talk, which is the 2 hours to explain what I do, or I do send them a video of one of my talks. And what it is that, see, all hypnosis is deep relaxation, as I mentioned in the first section. And deep relaxation doesn't come if you're thinking, because thinking means you're not relaxed. Make sense?
Yes.
So what I do is that I slow them down so that they're a lot calmer and closer to the subconscious. And this way there's easy access to the memories. So in fact, if you ever lose something, you start panicking, it's even harder to remember where it is than if you stop, take a moment and just take a relaxing thing. Because that's what I used to do. I'd sit down. If I lost something, I'd just sit down, slow down. And then with eyes closed, start thinking, when I got up this morning, what did I do? I just walk through it. And, I remember where I left it. But if you're panicking, and it doesn't work that well. So by having them watch my talk or attend or the video, this way when I'm working with them, they're not thinking, why is he saying this? What's he going to do next? How come he did that? Well, that's called thinking and not relaxing. That's again also why I can't work on myself, because I have to ask questions, which means I'm thinking. So I do get some of my graduates who have taken my program to help me if I have a question or two. So now what it's about is, again, as I finished with the last time, the last for part 1, is that I had to show people how this works. I don't tell people that you're a gypsy in a past life for 2 reasons. One, I don't know what you were in a past life. I'm not a reader, I'm a hypnotherapist. So what happens, and besides, if you were a gypsy, that's nice, but what are you going to learn from it? My system goes the other way. You tell me from seeing what I do and how I cover about 98% of our concerns, is you make a list and tell me then what I do at a session after I slow you down. And so I simply say, let your subconscious show you the cause of whatever it is, like a pain in the shoulder or something. And for some reason, and again, I'm not deep into theories and why this works, etc. I just know that when you've done so many thousands of clients and there's a commonality to all of them, then it might mean there's something there. So make use of it. So I use that formula, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Non-invasive. It's you don't disappear. Deep relaxation. Just to reiterate, hypnosis is not loss of control. None of that, bark like a dog thing. It's all, in fact, everybody is in hypnosis 5 to 20 times a day. It's how we used to remember in school. We used to have to memorize stuff, poems or stuff. can never do it if you got the TV on, people talking to you. Single focus concentration. You relax and just so focus on it. Daydreaming is also hypnosis, and you don't disappear. So there is no loss of control. So what I have found, and I'm learning all the time. I've been doing this for 25 years, DK, and even some of my graduates, pardon me, email, we stay in touch, and they'll come across something because when I work with these thousands of people, no two are the same. Okay, it's not like there's like only five past lives. Oh, you got number three. Let me tell me when you're finished talking. No, they're always different. That's also why I have four books in a series called Life in the Past Lane. These are case histories, not how to or then none of that stuff. So I do have that available. So what happened is that when you go, your subconscious shows you, and again, I don't lead. I don't say, for example, that it's if it's a pain in your shoulder, the how I start off with, let your subconscious show you why you have a concern with your shoulder. I don't say which one or how deep it is or how far. The subconscious always takes them to the right point in that life, and sure enough, 100% of the time, it's an injury or something that explains that part. Uh, Quick example is cancer. Now, I think I've worked with a couple of people with cancer, and this left them. But the majority of people that come in to see me about cancer is that they've finished with it, but they were told that they had an extremely high percentage chance of it returning. I think of the logic, cause and effect. If you haven't got rid of the cause, and so what I do is say, well, let's just find out why you did have the cancer. And because obviously when they're concerned and fear with it, they don't have much calmness, do they? Okay, they have
No.
anxiety. So what happened is that I say, let's your subconscious take you back to the cause. Again, as I just quickly, if they believe in past lives, I just say the past life. They're not sure, I say cause, because they're going to see something that looks like a past life anyways. But what it is that they see where it came from. And 100% of the time, the part where they had the cancer, because cancer isn't everybody in the world gets it in their left ear or something, it's all different places. Sure enough, the life that they come up with or see where it came from has to do with exactly that part of their body or that reason. And what I do is show them where it came from and let this the unknown noise. Once they see it, they can relax because to date, not a single person that I've worked with on that, and I've done about 45, 50 of those type of cancer questions, none of them have ever had their cancer come back, even though they had a
Wow.
high risk of it returning. And again, anxiety and stress and that people with the stress headache take a pill. Stress will come back with the headache again. So that's what I'm doing is I show where it came from so that it doesn't come back. So that's really a lot of the calmness, which is a lot easier if you can get rid of other things. Like if you have like today, for example, is I worked with a lady with migraines, and I don't know if have you ever had a migraine?
Probably not a real one. I've had some severe headaches before, but it's been progressively more rare over time.
Yeah. Well, there's basically two types of headache: stress type and migraine. Migraine is a very different headache. One thing about it is that it's a generally 2 to 4 day long headache. Certain things can make them worse. Some people can't have daylight, sunshine. One person used to get worse when she smelled chocolate. There's different triggers, but they can take painkillers, which are very expensive for that. And as two of my doctors remind me, is that there's no cure. They don't know how to cure it. They just give you painkillers, like for the stress headache. And what happens is that after about 2 to 4 days, it dissipates, but they're tied up. In fact, about a third of the people that do get migraines also it affects their vision, pains in the eyes and stuff like that. They call it ocular for some reason, but it's just that they've been hit in the head is what caused the migraine in a different life, and often their eyes got hit or because the brain's right behind the eyeballs. So so what happened with this lady today, and this is a good example about calmness. She's had anxiety for a long time, panic attacks, and what happened is that she always has control issues, likes to be in charge all the time. In fact, the more she's in charge, the more often she gets her headaches. Well, I don't know about you, but that looks like a trigger to me. And that's
Hmm.
what we came up with. So what happened was today, As I said, let's take care, see where you about the cause of your migraines. Now, most of the time it's just one past life, but she actually had two, but it took care of two different type of concerns she had. On the first one, it was a guy that in the 1600s, no 1800s, he had a farm, but he was in those days you're sort of rich or poor. He was in charge of the farm, inherited from family, but of course he was a bit well dressed and took the money. He had a lot of workers. Back in those days there wasn't tractors and that, so you had hands, as they call the hired hands. He had about 32 of them, and it was a fairly big farm, wheat and stuff. He always wanted to, though, have work in the fields, but it wasn't like sort of like a class thing. You didn't get dirty, that type of thing. So he was very envious of his workers because he would like to have gotten into it. But because he was sort of doing that and keeping an eye on the farm, he never a ranch farm. He never married and didn't have any kids. And what happened was is that when one day when he was in his 32, he was in the barn doing some work, which he was always often doing, which he really didn't have to do, but he remember he wanted to do a bit more physical. And some of the barn boards, there was a lot of hay or put behind it and put pressure, and it just as he walked by, one of the boards snapped out and caught him in the left eye. The corner of it got in, hit him in the left eye, and caused a lot of pain. And he was unconscious overnight. So the next morning, when the guys found him, his workers, and he was never the same after that. He didn't feel like doing anything. And he died, and he was in very big pain, a lot of pressure. And that's what this lady, my client today, said she feels it all the time when the migraines there. This guy felt it all the time. So he died about 6 years later. It just his head, it burst. So whatever it was in there was swelling and stuff. And of course, doctors and stuff weren't quite available in those days or hospitals. So what happened was is that we we go into, remember I mentioned first part one about we come in with lessons to learn, and if we don't learn them, they don't go away. We carry them into this life. His lesson, and because we can't find out what your current life lesson is, but we can find out what the lesson was for the life you finished, was acceptance. Acceptance of being happy, relaxing, like accept like he wasn't going to work in the fields after all, that type of thing. So acceptance. And she said, and then I said, have you noticed anything like that in this life? She says, yes, I have a hard time with it too, but I'm learning. So there was the thing. She actually came in today with a migraine. Doesn't happen very often, but it's nice because then it's easier for them to see it will disappear.
Hmm.
And so what happened was is that I use a scale of 0 to 10 with my clients. I said 10 is how you feel today, and this was her third day with this headache. And then I say 0 to 10 is what I'll ask you after we see the life. 0 is gone, 10 is the way it was. What number is it in between? So we finished that, as I said, that one, the lesson was acceptance. So I said, now, 0 to 10, and she said it's about a 3. So that's not too bad. But I said, I always do a check. Occasionally, it can be two past lives. Not on the exact same spot, but just to feel it was another one nearby it. So they sort of blended, but triggered by a different emotion. So what happened was, as I check, and sure enough, the subconscious says, yes, there's another one. Your subconscious is very, very accurate. I just have to say, is there another one? Take a deep breath, and then up pop, yes. It's like, and you can see the surprise, like they didn't know, like just yes. So I said, go now to the point of that one, and that one turned out. And this is sort of a funny one. This time she was a female, because in past lives we can be either gender, and she was on a wagon, two horses with a husband and three kids. It was like the wagon train type of wagon, the wagon trains. And she was there was four wagons altogether, but it was different. It was the States in the middle 1800s. But what happened was is that normally you see when the wagon trains come up, they do pop up in other lines. They're going west, but she was going east to Wisconsin. And I said, "Where are you from?" Because they usually know how much further east of Wisconsin is there. Not an awful lot. And it's not
Right.
like a main goal that people on wagon trains and aim for. She was from Oregon. But what happened, some of the train going to Oregon stopped and stayed in Wisconsin and set up life there. They didn't want to go further, so she and her husband had gone further to Oregon. But why they were going east was because there was a big wedding. They had gotten word, probably wasn't like a phone call in the 1800s, but there was Phone Express or stuff. Got word that one of her sisters was being married in Wisconsin. And being as she was sort of like in control of that marriage and very headstrong, she said, "We're going back to go to the wedding." Husband wasn't impressed. So as they're heading back, what happened was is that he or she got impatient because husband wasn't driving the wagons the horses very fast. So she got angry and grabbed the reins from him going to take over. Remember, this woman in this life, her client, likes control, being in
Hmm.
control. And when she grabbed the reins, they got caught on her legs. So she stood up to try and entangle them. Still the wagon's still moving, and fell out and hit her head on a rock. And I say to the person when they do that, where did they rock? What part of the body did the rock hit? I never say, is it where your hit pain is? That's leading. So sure enough, yes, the rock hit her on the right side, just a little bit over more from where that other guy had that pain, which had spread a bit. And she died fairly instantly in a lot of pain. Oh, no, she bled out, yes. And yes, she bled out within a couple hours because there's no doctors out there and none of them were, knew what to do. So she bled out, so a lot of pain. So when I took her to what was her life lesson, and it was to accept, not a bit of acceptance, like not, demand being in control, accept things in life to be nicer and what you get. And then I said, now 0 to 10, what number are you? She said, barely a one. This pain had been there for this is her third day, and she said they've never gone away that fast. I said,
Hmm.
"Have you done medicine for them?" Yes. Have you done other stuff? Yes. It disappeared. And I said, "It won't come back." Because remember my example I used about the unknown noise? When you hear wind blowing and it's a funny noise you don't understand or know what it is, and it sounds fearful, turned out to be a garbage can blowing in the wind. The next time you hear the garbage can blowing, why would that cause you fear again? Because the garbage can isn't dangerous. And as you kind of remember what it is, it's not like, oh, I forgot what that noise is. I'm going to be scared. No, I think we can remember. So that's why when I say when you do see where these concerns come from, they disappear. They don't. They eliminated is the correct word I like to use because they're gone. No more pain. So she said, I can see where that is triggered by being in charge. She said, I'm going to start learning to back off a bit. Okay.
Hmm.
Great question.
Interesting. So just to recap that particular that description, because I was headed to that where I was wondering once you brought the client to the point of pain, right, where the pain was originally generated in the prior life scenario, what is the mechanism of healing then? And it sounds like the mechanism is nothing more than just understanding where it came from, and that's
Yeah.
plenty. Where now they know what it is, and there's no emotional response, there's no triggered pain response, psychosomatic or anything, right?
Yeah, and there's no talk or speech, or you got to, like spit, turn around 3 times and spit nickels. No, it's
Yeah,
automatic. Again, that's why I like using the unknown noise, the garbage can. So it's a good
right.
example. Now,
That's
backing up to really how, sorry,
I was just saying that's pretty interesting.
yeah, thank you. But the main thing is about the stuck lives I was starting. I said I was going to explain today. Is that allegedly when we come into the human form, we are normally energy. Okay. Again, I can't prove any of this, but the fact I've done thousands of them and it's all the same, there's a commonality. There must be something there, and if not, at least use it as a formula. So what happened was is that when we come into the human form, we're supposed to learn lessons. Okay. Why exactly? Don't know, but we have to mature our group, whatever it is. So what happens is that you get it, you go to a body. And what happens then is that it's because our energy is so strong, only about 10% of our energies needed to go into a body. Think of like putting a computer into a robot. But if you put in one that's too powerful, you'll blow it up. So what happened is that when we die, when the body dies, we don't die. We're still there, but we leave. We've learned hopefully something. Sometimes, though, unfortunately, we die too soon and we don't finish our lesson, though. So what happens is that dying is confusing. So quite often, the energy it will hang around the body. In fact, I laughingly point out to people is that quite often we watch our own funeral. So I say, if next time you're at a funeral, wonder where that person is that's watching his own funeral. Some of them actually report that they didn't think so many people would show up then, because and that was one of the reasons they didn't like life, or they thought nobody liked them. But a lot of people does happen that showed up. But anyhow, so what happened is that because it's confusing, and I think I did start mentioning it, is that the something in or someone in the energy form will come to meet us. Again, it's to help us leave. Generally, it's somebody from your soul group, and they'll look the part, or it could have been that person's father in that life. And it's to help them leave. The point is we don't have to. We have free will. So occasionally we do stay. Now, if we stay and hang around, it's because of a very strong emotion, and it's not one, it won't be one that's nice. Okay. It'll be things like revenge. I'm going to kill the people that killed me. Two, I'm angry because I didn't get to finish my life lesson. Three, I got to help my family. Uh, because I'm in charge. I'm the father. Well, a little hard to help your family when you're dead because it's hard to get a job, sort of thing. Anyhow, that stuck feeling. So many people I have met feel stuck. They don't know what to do in their life. They feel stuck, can't go forward. You might have heard this before from people. Well, that's
Sure.
because they are stuck in a past life, a stuck life. And there's a few other strong emotions. Jealousy is one. There's a number. What happens is, think of some logic here. If that life, that part of that mind is about 10% of of that energy, and what have you, and you're in the in your current life, so you're part of that same main energy. That whole energy feels some of the all the strong emotions, and of course you feel them too. The point is, when you feel them, you don't know where they come from, so it's hard to get rid of. People go to therapy. I know people. In fact, this one lady, she one of her emotions that she wanted to learn to be more calm was that she had anger. She said, I don't know why. Life's been good, but I have anger issues. I feel angry. And I said, have you done anything about that? And she said, yes. I've taken 4 years of therapy. Okay. 4 years. Okay. Has it helped? And she said, no. Okay. So I said, let's check it out. So sure enough, and we often have two or three or four stuck lives. And what I did was I'd say, okay, now go to the past, go, or they used to going to tell you, do you have any stuck lives? Some people don't, but most of them do. And what happened? She said, yes, there's three. This lady. So what I did is say, okay, we're going to go help them, and I do ask, what's the gender of the two and or the three, and could have been two and one, whatever. So I said, now we're going to help one. Which one are you going to help, the male or the female? Now I don't see any of this, and to me, it's like, how do they know which one they're going to pick? They always do.
Hmm.
So when you know the formula, don't say, I hope you know how to find it. You just continue on with it, and sure enough, it works. So she said male. And then I asked how old were they when they died, and they just pop up the answers. And what was the cause of death? Oh, it's amazing what they come up with: murder, poison, uh, old age. There's tons of stuff. Then I ask, why are they still there? Why didn't they go back? And that's when they do come up with reasons like, haven't finished that life lesson, or anger, or whatever. So, but I didn't say it wasn't that. She said that one he's not very happy. So I said, okay, now go and see that one again. I don't know. So is it like they walk down the road and knock on the door and hello, are you there? I don't know how this works. They always do. So in their mind or in their mind's eye, they go, they go and see that one. And how often do they go and see that one correctly? 100%. Okay. So I said, how are they reacting seeing you? Now that's always amusing. If it's the first one, it's often like confusion or who are you, that kind of thing. Usually by the third one, they're happy because they know you're coming. Because, well, if it's all part of your same energy, you know, they're going, oh, he's coming to get us. We're coming
Right.
to get us. So anyhow, confusion, still angry. So I said, now the magic words that I say, tell them out loud, it's time to go home. So she did. Saying out loud is very important. We remember stuff better by saying it out loud than thinking it. If you're trying to memorize something, say it out loud. It sinks in. Why? I don't know, but it works quite well. Like just like a little offside, when you meet somebody new and you're introduced, so many people forget the name of that person because you heard it, but you're busy, seeing them and shaking their hand, stuff like that. And then what's annoying is that before you say goodbye to them, you go, "Oh shit, what's their name again?"
Yeah,
When
I've
you
been
get
there
introduced,
before.
yeah, when you get introduced to somebody, just like say it's Fred, just say Fred. How do you spell that? Or if it's a name like Jennifer that has two N's or one N, how many N's in it? So Jennifer with one N. You just say that, you'll remember that name like that. So singing it out. So anyway, backing up. So she said, "Time to go home," out loud. Then I said, take in your mind's eye, take that person's hand. Do they give you their hand? And it's almost always yes. If not, it just means a little bit more work on it. So I said, now take them home. Head for your soul group because they're both the same energy. It's obviously the same soul group. So same soul group. So in my mind, I'm going, well, I wonder how they see this, but I don't know. It works. So as they're taking it home, the woman, the client, starts sitting up straighter in the chair. And I said, "What's going on?" She says, "This is this is nice. I don't feel angry, and I've been angry all my life." So I said, "When you get to the soul group, are they happy to see the part that was stuck?" And they said, "Often soul groups apparently have a good sense of humor. It's always nice. Sometimes you hear them say, 'It's about time you got home,' or 'Dinner's ready.'" So anyhow, then I have the magic note question. I say, "How did that stuck life affect your current life?" And she said, "Anger. He was angry at the people that killed him." So that was what held it there, but she felt it. The point is, when you go to therapists, I'm sorry, I am a hypnotherapist, but I am a therapist that uses past life scenes. What it was is that therapists use current life. Go back early in your life to find out why you hated your parents or whatever. What does that have to do with being killed in a past life and you're angry about it? Nothing. But just like I think I might have mentioned or not, if you had 100 past lives and in this life you have a fear of heights, what's the odds that your fear of heights came from this life? 100
Basement,
to 1 it didn't. Yes.
right?
So that is why this works. So I don't quite say, in a sense, teach you to be calm. I get rid of the things that are preventing you from being calm.
Of course.
So, and lately I've been pushing a lot of doing some surveys to promote more of the stuff that's the most common stuff. And public speaking is one of them. Okay.
Hmm.
Actually, that's a funny one. I don't know if I mentioned last time, but the biggest emotion we drag from life to life, besides the aches and pains, the biggest emotion is guilt. Either something happened in that life that you were guilty for, or the guilt of not finishing that lesson. That's what we drag along. But number two is doing something stupid or embarrassment. Now, when I read all my answers to my survey on public speaking, what percentage of them do you think refer to feeling stupid, feeling embarrassed? About most of them.
A fair bit, I would say.
So when you get up on stage, you're triggering that emotion that they're going to make fun of you or be embarrassed or stuff like that. I met one person years ago. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but she'd come with us to restaurants but she would never have a drink. She would never have food. And I finally asked her why. And she said, "Well, just in case I spill something and I'll feel stupid." Bingo. This was before I started doing this. If I ever met her again, I'd certainly help her out with that one. So what happened was, again, if you're dealing with current life, in a current life, using current life issues, your odds of success are very limited. I've worked with psychologists, 4 or 5 I've worked at done sessions with, and realized that the past life does seem to help. So they're starting to add a little bit of that in with it. So there's how you get your calmness, by eliminating not how to create calm, but get rid of the stuff that's preventing you from being calm.
I completely agree with that. I use a very similar approach myself. It's the elimination of stress, right? That brings you
Hmm.
to the place of calmness rather than trying to enforce a calm state over the top of those underlying issues. Yeah, so we're in total agreement there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And bandages.
just to ask a question about that stuck life modality, just the mere act of identifying that life and urging it to return is sufficient, that there's no
Yeah.
resistance to that taking place.
Because what happens is that when they had died, somebody from their soul group generally come and suggest, let's go. They can't make you. But the reason why, when they're stuck and you go, and when I say go, get them and tell them it's time to go home, you are talking to yourself. We listen to ourselves better than somebody else telling us or
Oh, I
suggesting.
see. Okay, okay, okay. So it's much more
Now,
powerful.
yeah, there is no forcing per se. What it is that you just tell them, when they tell them it's time to go home, and give them a moment or two, they'll start to realize that they're part of the same energy. There is a little trick, or not trick, but if they decide, if they really still don't want to come, then I tell my client to tell them that them still staying there is screwing up our current life lesson. And that
Uh,
seems to always be the last little, oh, okay, for sure, I'll come down. That's
okay.
when they do. So that's it's a plan B if that does happen. But there's occasions though when somebody is stuck that they've really screwed up so bad, and you're just nobody back at your soul group wants you back. Think of it, if you had the plague and you're coming home, do you think your friends will barricade the door when they know you got the plague? So
Of course.
it's sort of like that. So what it is that apparently, if you read Michael Newton's books, Life Between Lives, he mentioned what's called like a healing area, which I've actually made use of a few times. When you go to pick up that, go and get that stuck life, I can usually now know when it's not going to work well, because they like, if you're supposed to be Mother Teresa and you became Jack the Ripper, I think you screwed up a bit. And what happened was, the first time that came across it is I had the client take that one home, but she said it's a boy about 8 and he is just not nice, very angry. He actually had killed people too. So she had picked him up to take him. He was fighting. That was a good sign. They didn't want him back home. Well, then I remembered reading Michael Newton's book about a healing area, and I said, ask him if if he would like to go to the healing area. And she said she did, and the boy said reluctantly yes. And she took him to this healing area where there's apparently other energies that stronger that work on you. How, I don't know, but it works. And apparently we've all been in that healing room a few times. We do screw up a bit. But again, like you said, if you can get rid of the pain, the cause, the effect is calmness with what I do. There's so many things it covers: extreme mood swings, bipolarism is two past lives uh, that are fighting with each other, panic attacks, okay, the anxiety, depressions. There's so many things, that feeling guilty, all these things can be eliminated by my system.
Hmm.
And as I mentioned, I do have some books on it. They're all case histories. Just a real quick synopsis. I didn't realize that when I did the first one, and it's sort of a tricky title, Life in the Past Lane, like the set of Life in the Fast Lane.
Right.
And I did do a variety of different types of concerns. And I realized that I also had wanted to put in this one, Fears and Phobias. It doesn't fit when you start getting books this thick. Okay.
Yeah.
So I made a series. So the third one was actually Life in the Past Lane, Aches and Pains. And this fourth one, I got two more I'm working on. It's called Crimes Against Humanity. And it's
Wow.
not
Okay.
red. And the color of the book cover is red, not for accident. It's to
Right.
do with things like torture, serial killers, World War II atrocities, dungeons, sexual assault, serial killers. So yes, it's not to do with gore per se. It's to show you how not nice we were way back then, but how these things that we've picked up from it are still affecting us. Even simple thing of chewing your fingernails. Dungeons. I know it's hard to believe, but they didn't feed you well.
Right. So
They
it is
chewed.
often written,
They
right, that
so
yeah,
they
folks
chewed
were
their
hungry a lot.
nails. Yeah, for sustenance.
Right.
IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, poor food, weight concerns in current life. A lot of people have gone to weight loss clinics, lose about 20 pounds. They get all excited and thought, this is a lot of work. I'm going to take a break. And as soon as they take a break, it all pops back again. It's because cause and effect. While you're working on it, the subconscious waits till you finish. Not because it has to do what you tell it. As soon as you take a break, it's like, my turn. I'm putting it
Right.
back on because your subconscious is in charge of your immune system and your body. And because you hadn't finished that lesson, which was the main one, was you starved to death in a dungeon. So why would I let you keep losing weight? I don't want you to die. I'll protect you. I'll put the weight back on. So that's one of the reasons why people have a hard time losing weight, which doesn't help with them being calm.
Indeed.
See,
Perhaps one of the number one
bring that
is,
back in.
yeah.
Yeah,
This is very cool. I guess I only have one additional question, which is once someone or a client visits you and goes through your process, and then they go back to their life, do they ever inherit new problems from these past lives, or does your process essentially clear them of all entanglement? How does that work?
that's actually a good question, DK. I've never been asked that, and you actually made me think. It probably unlikely because what it is when you come in, you already know where your aches and pains then. There are
Right.
occasions though where some aches or pains, like if you had a car accident, and it might have been when you're 30 or 40, and the pain stays for 10 years, well, you have triggered something. It's not the cause, isn't the car accident. It's the trigger. It's triggered a memory. And because you do have lots of past lives to work on, probably the subconscious doesn't bring them all up because it's hard enough to handle a few. So there is a slight chance that something new could happen, but the ones that I've taken care of will not come back.
Interesting. Okay. So because they're bringing a specific problem to you that was a triggered association with a prior
Yeah,
prior life memory, and you clear that, there could then in the future be another causal element, another accident, or some other issue that triggers
yeah,
another memory
thank
link.
yeah, that's a good. I never thought of that. Thank you.
Okay,
I haven't
awesome.
had anybody say that or have it, but I mean things like a fear of the dark. One person said, "Well, I know where that came from. My brother scared the crap out of me in the dark, and since then it started." So he blamed his brother. I said, "Really? Fear of the dark can be fixed. It's not, but what happened? But it was probably a trigger. So things like that can happen, or more. But if it's still there." So it's not always that you come in with it, even though nowadays you get so many kids coming in with fears and phobias, and even things like your thyroids or allergies or asthma. These are all past life stuff. Things like in a past life you got killed because you spoke out too much, or you got hung because you were allegedly a witch, which really was a healer, and you're not supposed to heal people with herbs and that. You're supposed to, the church will tell you, let God do it. And so that's why a lot of them get hung. So a lot of times not being able to speak will cause people to have asthma, stuff making it hard to speak. There's so many different things that we do get trained in. One or triggered by. One more thing just to finish. When people
Sure.
say that you could get rid of your stuff by facing your fears, that's a load of crap because it's like putting in stronger aspirins for your headache. The headache will still come back. A good quick example is that the number one fear, as I told you, was in the world is heights. And what happened was this one guy said, well, he came for a session for a couple other things, but he had heights on there. I said, well, how long have you had that? Well, I was told actually, he said, to face my fears. It would work. And you probably heard that expression, face your fears.
Of course.
Well,
Kind of
what
escape
it
rest of it.
is yeah. So what it was is that I said, how did you do that with the fear of heights? He said, well, I went skydiving. I said, wow, that certainly is something, you know, quite the thing. And I said, how did that work? And he sort of sheepishly looked down and said, I can't still climb ladders. It didn't take care of it. So, and about 10 minutes into that past life with that, then what I do is that he saw that he had fallen off a bridge or something. Pardon me. Or he was thrown off a bridge. Whatever. Anyhow, the point was is that I said, now you know where it came from. You can let it go. Then I do a test. Now with pain, I can do 0 to 10. How much does it hurt? What I do with fears and phobias, I say, now in your mind's eye, picture a scene in your current life to do with heights that bothers you. Well, everybody's got instantly is at a spot because they can just think of the last time they got scared from heights. Then I look at them and I go, they're looking, all of a sudden, they're looking calm. I said, it's not bothering you now, is it? And he said, no, it's gone. And he's only had it for all his life. Okay. So it's a good
Wow.
test to see that scene and then say, how do you feel about it? And it's like, sometimes it might be say a one, probably just to know they don't want to sound like they're too it happened too well. But anyhow, the point was, and again, you don't have to believe in it. It still works. Tell me what you see. Could be might feel it's your imagination, but when the fear is gone, which it will, it doesn't matter.
You get the
So
result you need.
that's how it works.
Yeah, it's
So
awesome.
so
One
bring
final,
home with them.
yeah, one final question. How
Sure,
much of this session does the client remember afterwards?
all of it. They're still
Excellent.
there. They don't
Right.
disappear. Yeah, that's a good. It's a good question. No, they
Yeah.
remember. In fact, their memory is better. I don't give them a recording of it. I do occasionally get people say, "You don't want it recorded," and I say, "Yes, I do." And they say, "Well, why?" I said, "Well," then I look at them and say, well, "Why did you want to record it?" One of the first people said, "Well, I wanted to remember, know what I said." And I said, "Aren't you staying? Are you going somewhere?" Okay, you're here all the time. It's not that little thing about TV where you float away and disappear. That
Right.
garbage. You're there all the time. Your memory's even better. But I said, remind them, is that when your ache or pain disappears, and we determined in the process that it was 1801 in England. Why do you? And it's gone. Do you need to know it was 1801? It's already gone. It's just a modality. So it's like if you get a bandage on a wound, you want to keep the bandage to remind you that you had it. No,
Nope.
it's
Throw it
gone.
away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gone. So you don't need it. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
and they remember everything. Occasionally, I had people that ask for a piece of paper and I'll jot down a couple of things for them, but it almost never happens because they're just so excited. A guy 2 days ago came in. He's a young guy, 21. He got a lot of his injuries from playing hockey in school and stuff. But he's got a problem with his back, his neck, his shoulders, his right knee, his right ankle, his right, and he said, I've been taking therapy, I've been getting massages, chiropractor, stuff like that, and it's still there. And this has been with him for like some of them he remembered even getting when he was like 8 years old. So in the session, I went through about 5 past lives, and in fact, one overlapped into another one. In fact, one of them was in a dungeon, and I said there was a chains involved. Now, almost everybody in dungeons get chained, but it's interesting. Sometimes it's both wrists, both ankles, sometimes one, and sometimes even by the neck. So he said, right ankle, and this was to do with his right knee because they had tortured him. But what I said to him was, by the way, do you have problems with your right ankle? And he says, yeah, I do. I get rashes there and itchiness, and it's kind of tender at times. Left one? No, just the right one. And I said, that's from the chain. He went, wow. And he wiggled his foot and he says, it feels like energetic. So sometimes if it's not working, hurting at the time, often you'll feel energy in it. Warmth and
Right.
tingling often happens because your circulation, which has been held tight from aches and pains, duplicating the subconscious tightens up to hurt. are letting the, just like when you sleep on your arm, isn't it annoying when you sleep on the arm? It's like dead.
Yeah.
Whatever. Then it's because you restrict the blood flow. So as soon as you move it around, after a while, you start getting tingles and warmth, and then your arm gets better. That's the same type of thing. So and when he left, he said he got up and he said, wow. And his basically all his different aches and pains were about a 1 at the most. And over the next 2 days, if you do have a 1 or 2 out of 10, over the next 2 days after the session, they go to zeros because sometimes there's just a little bit of remnants or
Some
just from
residual.
holding
Yeah.
a muscle too tight for too long. So that's how it
Yeah,
works.
that makes sense. Yeah, and that's a perfect note to close our conversation. This was a fascinating exploration from my point of view. I knew very little about it, and admittedly, I had to open my mind a little bit to get into this. But yeah, I'm completely fascinating, and I'm also super impressed by the results record you're talking about, and look forward to reading and learning more about this topic from
Just a quick
perhaps these
one.
books.
I have a special on my books. They're normally in stores about $15 each, but if you mention hearing me on DK's show, is that I have a special all four for $25. But you have to do the shipping. I don't have a white beard and red outfit. Thank you. So
Right, exactly. And can the audience just send you an email to access that special from you?
yep, yep.
Yeah.
And as they see, CL at pastliferap.com. Look up my website. I just got it finished a couple weeks ago. And I've had one for like many years, but my wife said it's very boring, so I got it revamped and it's also more modernized so that it's for scrolling, like people on their phones now. That scrolls down rather than wide and stuff. So big words that I'm trying to catch up on all this technology.
Exactly. I'll be sure to have a look, and I would recommend the audience also head to pastliferap.com or the email address for Chris at cl@pastliferap.com. And Chris, you've spent so much time with us over the last couple of days. I really appreciate all of that, and all of this, in my opinion, anyway, quite a deep dive into your very successful technique of past life regression is the right way to call it, right?
Yep, I basically call it past life regression therapy.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Hope the audience will reach out and leverage the solution that you offer. And Chris, thanks for joining us and spending so much time describing this wonderful method.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on, DK. You take care.
Absolutely.
Bye.
You too. For the Center of Calmness, I'm DK Warner.